sitting on the back patio one morning last week, enjoying that first cup of coffee as the sun slowly began to color the top of the mountains. The air seemed to have a bit of fall in it, and I heard the honk of another early flight of Canada geese arriving. I shouldn't have been surprised when I was interrupted by a song drifting in from the radio in the kitchen. I instantly recognized it as a personal favorite from one of the groups I never tire of listening to. And also, I shouldn't have been startled by the Lord's choosing this song to make his point. He does that with me, with music, all the time. This time, it was all about the heart of the matter. Hi, I'm Pastor Tom. This morning I want to explore a really important subject in the first of a 4-part series on a subject that I think is truly at the heart of the matter for all of us. You know, as I sat there watching the sun warm up the side of the mountain, for the first time I really listened to the words of that song and not just the melody. And while the song was delivering a message to a lost world that's searching for answers, the Lord used the words to remind me of an important message for his bride. The opening verse went like this: I've been trying to get down to the heart of the matter, but my will gets weak and my thoughts seem to scatter. But I think it's about forgiveness. Forgiveness. Even if you don't love me anymore. You know, forgiveness is something that most of us in the body of Christ struggle with at one time or another. And sadly, it's one of the reasons why unbelievers say the church just isn't for me. In fact, it's been said that the army of God is the only one that shoots its wounded. And if we're ever going to change and alter that image, we need to take our example from Jesus and be ready to forgive even unto our own hurt. Now, I could build a very large case to show how failure to forgive works to our detriment. But Jesus did it in a very few words. Matthew 5:22-24. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council. And whoever says, "You fool," will be liable to the hell of fire. So if you're offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. When our hearts are filled with iniquity, our prayers never rise above the top of our heads. In light of Jesus' words, how can we expect him to hear our prayers when we're holding something against a brother or a sister, especially if we're challenging them with their relationship with God? When we consider how Jesus has forgiven us, do we really need to go any further? It's a fact that failing to forgive shuts off our communion with him until it's dealt with, and these verses provide us an excellent example. Now, here are some thoughts on the subject from Alfred Barnes. In order to worship God acceptably, we must do justice to our fellow men. Our worship will not be acceptable unless we do all we can to live peaceably with others. It's our duty to seek reconciliation with others when we've injured them. This should be done before we attempt to worship God. And finally, unforgiveness is often the reason why God does not accept our offerings, and we go away empty from all our devotions. When we forgive others, we clear out an obstruction in our heart that hinders our walk with the Lord. He has fully forgiven us, and we need to fully forgive others. And one of the best examples came from Jesus when he related the story of the unjust steward in Luke 16. How can we be like that unjust steward when our master has forgiven us such a great debt, one we can never repay? Especially when forgiveness carries with it some powerful benefits. Here is an important one we'll look at, and we'll look at a couple more next week. Forgiveness builds strength. Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. I got this thought the other day when I was sharpening a knife. You know, when a knife is struck against a properly whetted honing stone, and at the right angle, the result is a fine edge on the knife without damage to the stone. Yes, the stone gives a little of itself in the process, but it's given to the benefit of the knife. And it's interesting to note that in the same process, The knife has to give a little bit of itself in order to obtain a sharp edge. This process is effective when the stone and the knife act together in harmony. And so it is between believers. Here's another verse. There are people in your life who've come and gone. They let you down. You know they hurt your pride. You better put it all behind you. Life goes on. You keep carrying that anger, it'll eat you up inside. When we challenge one another, we engage in that honing process. And it's designed so that each of us will benefit. But our relationship must be in harmony as well, or it'll be dulled and damaged. Forgiveness is a key ingredient in keeping our relationships healthy. When we're in a right relationship with one another, there will always be a sharpening, but the challenge will make us grow stronger in our inner man. Now, we're to be mindful of the process and not run from it when it takes place. The answer, as in all things, is to lean on the Lord and not our own understanding. He's the one who knows when we need to be honed, and he knows who he needs to use to do the honing. But if we let unforgiveness interfere, we may never attain the edge the Lord desires. Too often we choose our friends like we do a book, by the cover and not by the content. God always chooses by content. Unfortunately, we often leave the process of forgiving out of the equation. When we've been hurt by someone and we never learn the lesson, we wind up with a weaker and duller edge. So, our challenge this week is to begin focusing on what the Word has to say about the importance of unforgiveness as a key part of our walk with God. Now, next week in part 2, we'll look at additional reasons why we need to walk in forgiveness. And then in parts 3 and 4, we'll consider what the Word has to say about how we're all supposed to accomplish that. Now, thanks once again for joining me on our spiritual journey through this life. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do and join me here every Wednesday as we challenge one another to grow deeper in our relationship with Jesus. And I also appreciate your liking us and sharing the message with others. And you can help by contributing to Walk with God Ministries. Now, if you're not a believer in Jesus and don't know who the Bride of Christ is, I invite you to click on the link to Come and Believe and learn how the Chinese foretold the coming of Jesus thousands of years before his birth and death. It will take you to the next step. So until next Wednesday, when we take up part 2 of this series, remember, I'm here to help you on your journey from the cross to spiritual maturity. Now have a good week in Jesus, and God bless.